Aloha, Crime Talk aficionados. Welcome to another Crime Talk with Scott Reich on the Crime Talk Network. We come to you today from the great state of Hawaii, and we're on the island of Kona at the beautiful Four Seasons Resort. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. First, Lori Vallow's attorneys in Arizona, well, they say they need more time to prepare, and she wants to go to trial right now. Bryan Kohberger gets a date to resolve his fate. A police chief gets indicted. An attorney, also known as the most eligible bachelor, well, he was found guilty of sexual assault. And hey, gentlemen, little tip here. Appreciate the things your wives do for you. Why? Because it could save your life. We have a man that was arrested for a shooting at a Chick-fil-A. The reason why people get arrested, well, they're terrible at being criminals. Let me give you an example. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We come to you from the great state of Hawaii. As you can see, this beautiful background here. Yeah, it's almost 10 a.m. here in Hawaii. The rest of the day is almost over back on the mainland, but that's all right. We've got a lot of news to bring to you. All right, you know the drill. First, subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and yes, make sure you hit that little bell for notifications so you receive word when we go live or put up new content. And remember, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps as well. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for June 27th, 2024. And first on the docket, Lori Vallow. Yes, she's back. Remember, she got convicted there in the great state of Idaho for 3 counts of murder, got 3 consecutive life sentences. Her husband, Chad Daybell, well, he got the death penalty. Well, Lori Vallow has that pesky case of where, she just tried to, well, she succeeded, I guess, in conspiring with her brother, allegedly, to kill Charles Vallow down there in Arizona, and she has been charged. Well, her attorneys have said, we need more time. The defense team for Lori Vallow is moving to continue the August 1st, 2024 trial date. Well, guess what? Lori Vallow objects. She says, I want to go to trial, and I want to go to trial now. So the court's going to have to decide whether her right to a speedy trial trumps her right to her Sixth Amendment right to effective assistance of counsel. Now, the public defender says, hey, Judge, there's over 100,000 pages of discovery review. Approximately 88,000 of those pages were disclosed only in February of 2024, and there's no way that they could possibly get through this. The government has endorsed some 45 witnesses, and the defense has requested 3 pretrial interviews in this case and is awaiting their scheduling, but the clearly nowhere near completed their pretrial interviews in this particular case. So you may say, well, what's the big deal? Just drop all your other cases. Well, Lori Vallow is being represented by the public defender. Guess what? These public defenders, they have probably 200 other cases that they need to worry about, not to mention the new ones that come in, the other cases that have been going on. It's not like they just get designated one particular trial. This may be one of probably 10 or 20 homicide cases that the public defender represents individuals on in other cases. So therefore, it's going to be interesting. Now, Lori Vallow ultimately has the right to say, I object. This same situation happened in her case in Idaho, as you may recall. It ultimately saved her life because she didn't receive the death penalty because the judge imposed a sanction against the prosecution for turning over discovery late. And she says, I'm not waiving my speedy trial. Let's go. Let's do this thing. Let's rock and roll. And the judge says, fine, is a sanction because we're going to do this case and we're going to do it within the speedy trial rights. Prosecution, death penalty is off the table. It probably wouldn't have happened given her mental health issues. And even if she was convicted or found guilty and then ultimately sentenced to death in Idaho, it probably would have been reversed. But here in Arizona, there's no indication that they're going to go death. And therefore, the judge will have to decide whether their attorney's right to prepare trumps her right to a speedy trial. I say, let's go August 1st. Ladies and gentlemen, These public defenders need to go to their boss and say, hey, big case, we got to prepare, transfer some of my other cases to other individuals so that we can prepare for this particular case. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. But, we'll have to wait and see. Now, certainly this may create a rift between Lori Vallow and her attorneys, right? When the attorneys are saying, I need more time to prepare, guess what? That also is giving the prosecution more time to prepare and be ready. My guess is the prosecution will be ready on August 1st. They've had this case for years. It's not that difficult. Heck, at one point I had the entire discovery downloaded from the case in Arizona, and it was about this big. When I say this big, it was probably on the table. It was about, 2 feet tall. So it's not that complicated. Yeah, there's a lot of body cam videos, but really it is what we've all seen on the videos as it relates to the Netflix series about Lori Vallow and the timing of how she went here and there. And Charles came back, and guess what? Her brother just happened to be there and shot Alex Cox. And obviously, it wasn't self-defense. Now, the police probably should have arrested her that particular day. Shame on them for not doing that. All right, next on the docket, Bryan Kohberger finally gets a date to see when his fate will be decided. So here's the issue. Obviously, Bryan Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecution has said that they are seeking the death penalty, but this case needs to move along. Obviously, this case goes back to November of 2022, but now the trial is set to begin in sometime of June of 2025. Now, is that enough time? Well, it would seem like it would be enough time, and the judge has put forth a proposed scheduling order where both the prosecution and the defense need to have certain motions filed by particular dates and times. And of course, the defense does what the defense does. Well, Judge, I think I can comply with these dates, but of course I want to reserve the right to file more motions based upon new evidence that comes about. And of course the judge says, well, of course it is. That's fine. It's a death penalty case. We anticipate all this type of stuff to come up. So, but we're going to set some dates because the job expands to the amount of time given, and this case needs to move forward. It is getting a little long in the tooth. So that is what's going to take place. Now, I thought what was interesting, and if you watch this, maybe we can show you this part here, or we can put the link in, but it was very nonchalant. The judge is like, well, we're going to give you 8 weeks. We'll probably do 2 weeks for jury selection, another 6 weeks for case in chief, and then another 2 weeks for the penalty phase. And it was almost like the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorneys almost conceded it was a fait accompli, that we all know he's going to get convicted and there's going to be a death penalty phase. Even when the defense was told about deadlines for their mitigation, to turn their mitigation over to the prosecution, and once again, reserving the right to supplement based upon aggravating factors that haven't been necessarily released completely to the defense, they wanted additional time to do that. But even in that conversation, it was almost like, Judge, hey, mitigation is the biggest part of our case. It's time consuming. We need more time. Please don't, tie us down to this. But once again, it was almost like they knew that they were going to get to the mitigation phase. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the defense is going to try to win the case in the trial, but it's a death penalty case. The prosecution normally doesn't go forward on a death penalty case unless they think that they can truly win. Usually it has to be pretty overwhelming, right? I can't think of a time. I can think of one case that I'm personally aware of in the state of Colorado where the judge threw out the death penalty and the defendant was found not guilty of the charge that would have gotten the death penalty. Now, he still got a bunch of years on top of that, but the death penalty was thrown out. So very rarely does a defendant charged with the death penalty prevail. So it was interesting to hear that conversation. And it was also kind of interesting to look at Bryan Kohberger's face when that conversation came up, almost like, well, of course we're going to need at least 2 weeks for the sentencing phase. And then the judge kind of said, well, that's assuming, he were to be convicted. Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, June of next year. Now, the judge also put in his order that the trial would be in Latah County, and the defense noted that, hey, Judge, I'm not agreeing to Latah County because we believe that our motion for change of venue should be granted. The prosecutor was all happy about that because he said, yes, we can use the courtroom here in Latah County because high school will be out, there'll be plenty of parking, and it's all going to be great. So we'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to get moved, and I think they're going to need the penalty phase. But hey, let me know what you think. Is he an innocent man? Has he been framed? I don't know. Have they come up with a good reason to explain how that DNA got on that K-bar sheath? The little button? I'd sure like to know how it got there. Next on the docket, a police chief gets indicted. That's right. Now, the now former Chattanooga police chief, Celeste Murphy, is now facing a 17-count indictment containing felony and misdemeanor criminal charges a day after she resigned her position as the police chief. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation announced Thursday that a Hamilton County grand jury returned the indictment after special agents started investigating her residency in April. Now, during the investigation, agents determined that Murphy knowingly entered false information on several government documents related to establishing residency in Chattanooga, though swearing to their truth is signing the document. Now, Murphy, who had been sworn in as the police chief in April of 22 before resigning Wednesday, was charged with 1 count of illegal voter registration, 1 count of false entry of official registration or election documents, 3 counts of false entries in governmental records, 3 counts of forgery, 3 counts of perjury, and 6 counts of official misconduct. Now, the former police chief had to surrender and posted a $19,000 bond. The mayor said, obviously, that they will accept the police chief's resignation effective immediately. Now, remember, the city council is one that hires the police chief, and apparently they didn't do a good job in screening the police chief, or at least try to figure out where exactly she was going to live. Anyway, needless to say, the official statements go about that they're all disappointed. It's a bad, sad day for law enforcement when an officer or police chief is indicted for acting outside the law, and it tarnishes the badge which they all proudly wear. You have to expect that anytime somebody gets in trouble, but you know, this has been her life as a police chief. It kind of makes you wonder what was going on, so to speak, as to why this wasn't discovered sooner. Now, you also have to wonder, why are they really, this is how it comes about. There has to be a bigger reason for that. But we'll have to wait and see. Next, and a former attorney, also known as one of the most eligible bachelors, well, he was found guilty of sexual assault. And it only took the jury 5 hours in which to do so. So Gary Zarola was acquitted of the most serious charge of aggravated rape and burglary. But the former prosecutor and now defense attorney, or former defense attorney, was arrested back in 2021. Investigators allege that at the time, Zarola had been wanted on a warrant issued out of Boston Municipal Court for rape and breaking and entering. Now, obviously, he pled not guilty. Zarola had faced previous charges of rape and sexual assault, and he previously faced 2 rape charges in Suffolk County and was ultimately acquitted back in 2023. So this guy must have thought that he was Teflon. Now, he was also charged in 3 sexual assault cases between 2006 and 2007, but was never convicted. This guy is Teflon. Anyway, prosecutors in 2021 said that he had paid for a night of drinking with women that he was dating and her 21-year-old friend. The friend apparently became quite intoxicated and had to be helped back to the apartment. Now, Zarola later entered the apartment without permission and sexually assaulted her while she was asleep, according to prosecutors. And needless to say, the attorneys for Mr. Zarola didn't necessarily make any comments other than the standard. We will, of course, appeal. And the sentencing will now be held on July 15th. Now, the judge revoked Mr. Zarola's bond, and he will sit in custody pending sentencing. So, just because he's the most eligible bachelor, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't mean that he is perfect. Let's just say that for sure. Nobody has that many allegations of sexual assault with something not sticking, to say the least. Now, gentlemen, this goes for the wives as well, all the ladies out there as well. Appreciate your spouses, okay? It could save your life one day. And why do I bring that up? Well, please meet Michelle Peters, all right? Now, what did Michelle Peters get herself into? Well, she got herself into potentially going to prison more than likely. All right, now she is an esthetician in Missouri, and she got caught putting weed killer in her husband's soda because he was not appreciative enough of the 50th birthday party that she threw for him. Obviously, there's something much deeper here than just a birthday party that he was not appreciative of. I think there's a little something deeper. I think the magic, the love is gone. Uh, I think that was just the icing on the cake. Now, according to police during interviews with authorities, Miss Peters purposely said she wanted to be mean to her husband because he didn't appreciate the party that she threw for him. Now, Peters' husband told the sheriff's officer that he believed his wife was poisoning him, according to the affidavit for the probable cause, to arrest his wife. So apparently, back in May, he alleged he noticed that his Diet Mountain Dew from the 2-liter bottle he kept in the couple's garage refrigerator tasted a little weird. Probably that Roundup that was going into it. Now, apparently, he originally ignored the strange taste, but he kept drinking the soda. And then a couple weeks later, he started suffering a sore throat, had a little bit of nausea, a little diarrhea and vomiting. I wonder what could have caused that. Oh, and he also started having some coughs that were sending up some thick brown yellow mucus. Now, the husband became suspicious and looked back at a security camera footage from inside the garage. Guess what? The footage shows Peter taking the Diet Mountain Dew from the fridge and a bottle of Roundup weed killer into the house. A few minutes later, guess what? Miss Peters returns to put both items back in the original spot. Now, Miss Peters, I'm not saying you're a contestant for the dumb criminal of the day, but did you not think that, oh my gosh, there are security cameras in my own garage? Kind of stupid, don't you think? Now, needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want anybody to get away with trying to kill somebody, but really poisoning them and putting it on video in your own home, Miss Peters, that's why, well, you got arrested. And guess what? It also looks like she maybe had, I don't know, $500,000 from an insurance policy in mind as well. What do we say? It's always about the money, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the birthday party he wasn't appreciative of. It's about the $500,000 that she would have got from the insurance policy. Anyway, we'll have to continue to follow this case. Miss Peters, not too bright at all. First, just get a divorce if you don't like your husband, for goodness sakes. You don't have to kill him. Jeez. All right. 2 victims were killed at a shooting at a Chick-fil-A in Irving, Texas. Now, this is a little weird, ladies and gentlemen. So the police have arrested a man suspected of murdering 2 people in what they believe was a targeted shooting at a Chick-fil-A. Now, the police responded to the Chick-fil-A about 4 p.m. following multiple 911 calls about a shooting that occurred with the Irving Police Department. When the officers arrived at the scene, they found 2 victims suffering gunshot wounds inside the fast food restaurant. And obviously, they confirmed that there was a shooting involved. Both individuals were pronounced dead by the emergency medical personnel that arrived at the Chick-fil-A shortly after that. Now, they were able to gather enough information and determine that the victims were targeted, and the suspect was Oved Bernardo Mendoza Argueta, and he fled the scene. Now, according to the police, Mendoza Argueta's spouse is also an employee at the Chick-fil-A, and she was a witness to this shooting, and she was able to positively identify her husband as the suspect. Now, Mendoza Argueta was booked into the jail yesterday, and he is being held on capital murder of multiple persons. No reason as to why Mr. Mendoza Argueta would shoot 2 other employees there. You know, we've seen situations like this before where someone was being mean to his wife, their wife. Maybe that's what it was here. But crazy doesn't need to happen in any way possible. I just don't get it, ladies and gentlemen. There's such senseless violence out there. I do not get it. All right, next on the docket. Let me tell you why most people get caught. Because they're terrible at being criminals, and that's a good thing. because we want people to be held accountable for their actions. Well, meet Emily Fasano, okay? She is currently being held on one count of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, according to the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Now, a no bond warrant was issued after her arrest last week, and the underlying incident took place a little while ago, just outside of Fasano's residence in Plantation, which is in South Florida. Apparently, that night, Fasano allegedly veered into a bike lane and struck a cyclist with her 2017 Jeep. This was apparently supported by tire marks, gouge marks, and debris field that was left on the roadway, according to the affidavit for probable cause. Now, the front right side of the vehicle, the bumper struck the individual that passed away, which caused him to travel onto the hood of Fasano's vehicle and then smashing the passenger side of Fasano's windshield. Due to the severity of the damage to the windshield, Fasano would have had knowledge of striking the person. You think? You'd be surprised. So many people. Remember that lady that drove with the person like in the car for like 12 miles? Oh, I didn't even notice that. Yeah. Anyway, they have tire marks, they have cell phone records, there's surveillance footage that the police say that shows Fasano got home roughly 5 minutes after the crash, and apparently video footage from her own Ring doorbell shows that she tried to change her hairstyle. She tried to change her identity so as to get away. Anyway, she was apparently home for about 12 minutes, and when she was attempting to leave, guess what? The police officers showed up right out front, and they could tell that things weren't right. Obviously, there's a big old crack on her windshield. There's problems with her car. Now, like I said, her own Ring camera shows that she was leaving the house and trying to get back into the car, and she has been charged. She's entered a plea of not guilty and $75,000 bond. Now, I'm not saying we want people to get caught, okay? But if you're involved in a hit and run accident, going home is probably not the best place to be, because if they have your license plate, all they're going to do is say, oh, they're going to call it in, they're going to find out the address for the license plate, and they're going to have somebody meet you there, just like they did with Miss Fasano. But that's why most people don't know that. They panic. They panic. Not saying you should have an attorney on speed dial, but sometimes if you do something wrong, you need to just say, what should I do? And the attorney's going to say, well, obviously, you should keep your mouth shut, don't say a word, and we'll sort this out and let the attorney do the talking after you drive to their office, perhaps. Just saying, ladies and gentlemen. But everybody wants to do it themselves and save. Nobody needs an attorney. They saw something on YouTube once. They don't need an attorney. And then they expect the attorney to undo what they have failed to do correctly themselves. And finally today, our dumb criminal of the day. And I think this guy, obviously we'll give him the presumption of innocence, prison. All right, so a Florida man has robbed a 12-year-old Miami-Dade kid while he was trying to raise money through his snack selling business. Now, Noel Prince started the Caveman's Snack Shack about a year ago to save money for activities that he wanted to participate in, like football. And he had a desire to be independent because he said he knew that one day his mom was not going to be here. Anyway, the 12-year-old was headed to a 7-Eleven where he usually sets up shop. And then guess what? This guy, Michael Hughes, runs up and steals his bag, which contained about $40, according to the police. And needless to say, the young Mr. Prince chased Mr. Hughes, who took the money out of the bag before tossing the bag and a rock at the 12-year-old. Anyway, I guess he needed the money. But the boy's mother called 911 after she and Noel followed Mr. Hughes to his home, where ultimately he was arrested by police. Now, Noel says he still plans to run his business, but he's going to be a little more careful in the future. He's going to put his money bag at the back from now on, and decided that he won't have any money in the bag when he goes out. Just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, you got a young, hardworking, motivated 12-year-old kid trying to get ahead, understanding capitalism, taking something, repackaging, reselling it, and trying to make a better future for himself. And then there's always someone, right? There's always someone uh, like Mr. Hughes who thinks that he needs to take what he didn't earn because he wants it and he needs it, even though he didn't work for it. I'd say give this man the death penalty. He is of no use. If you're stealing from 12-year-old kids, get rid of you. We don't need you. If you harm a kid, you steal from a kid, that's it. You're out of here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed the show. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And yes, we'll be here until Sunday. Until next time, thank you for watching, and remember, the Constitution matters.